9. Tonight, we do have a light agenda. The first matter on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the August 17th, 2009 meeting. Have all board members have a chance to look at the minutes on that?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of August 17th.
Second that, Mr.
A
Chairman.
motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, those minutes have been accepted. Moving along, we have one matter under old business. We do not have any public hearings this evening. Under old business, we have 94/106 Rock Street. The board will review a request by Middlesex North Resource Center, subsidiary of Bridgewell, Inc., to amend the approved site plan for the project located at the above address. The amendment plan would reduce the total number of parking spaces from 15 spaces to 13 spaces due to the existing granite formation that impedes the ability to construct the remaining spaces. Bridgewell, Inc. is a nonprofit educational corporation serving disabled and proposes rehabilitation on an existing building with site laundry facilities, recreation, common room, and 12 bedrooms. The proposal also includes the construction of a new 6,900 square foot building with 12 efficiency units, classrooms and office space, as well as 13 space parking lot for associated landscaping. The project is located in the urban neighborhood multifamily zoning district and requires site plan approval under section 11.4 of the zoning ordinance. May we hear from the applicant, please?
Chairman, do you want me to address the issue?
Sure,
'Cause
if
I've
you
been
would.
working.
Go ahead.
I know Catherine's here on behalf of Bridgewell, but I've been working with our project manager at the city, Patty Luckin, who's working with the applicant in the construction of the project. So she has quite a bit of information that she's passed on to me. So basically, the story is that there's a large, as the notice said, a large granite formation that's in the back of this property, and to drill it down or take it out, to get, it's actually 12 spaces, by the way. It's reducing from 15 to 12 rather than 15 to 13, as I originally had thought. But to get it down, to get the total 15 parking spaces, would have taken a large sum of money. I think it's something on the order of $275,000 to drill it out, reinforce it for those 3 spaces. The other part of the question was, it's hard to see on the plan. I wish I'd given you an aerial to give you a better perspective, but the parcel to the, as you're looking at the plan lower left, it's the Ted Choate.
Yeah.
The building is right up in that top corner, so it's right adjacent to the granite rock that's there. So there was also concern, structural concern of if drilling continued to remove the granite rock to provide parking, on what would happen with the structure itself, and whether or not it weakened the structure. So it was a couple. The 2 major concerns was a huge cost incurement. It was something around $75,000 per parking space, and whether or not there would be some damage to the integrity of the structure of the adjacent property. So that was the primary, well, the reasons for not reducing that. So you can see I gave you blown up plans. The larger plan that I had that gives you all the information was too hard to read, so this is blown up, but you can see that they're achieved 12 parking spaces with the landscape island where it was originally approved. The dumpster fits in the back, and that notch that's been able to be cut into the rock wall. So they have not constructed the parking lot yet. We wanted to get everything in order before they proceeded with that. But that's one of the last remaining steps in the project.
And I believe, as you narrative, what you told us, if they reduce it from the 15 to the 13, they still conform to site plan review?
Correct, yes. They're actually reducing it to 12, And the zoning requirement is 12 spaces, so they're still conforming to the zoning code. My understanding is that the original plan was to fit as many parking spaces on there as they could to achieve 15. But as they got into it, just the challenge of removing that rock just was too much. So they just wanted to make sure that they had at least the zoning requirement provided.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. Sorry.
Any of the board members have any questions?
I just, one, Mr. Chairman, by moving that retaining wall, Aaron, to eliminate those parking spots, they'll be able to secure enough space for the dumpster, it appears on the new plan, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, they'll have some land behind that retaining wall, that's just dead space at that point.
Yeah, I think it's basically rock. It's going to be a big piece of rock.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a couple of questions. I guess I'll direct them to Aaron. Aaron, just in looking at that site right now, I noticed that it's just mounds of I guess it's stone or I don't know if it's fragments of the granite that they've taken out to date. I'm not quite sure what's there. But have they indicated how that will be landscaped? And I guess I'll ask the question, the revised plan that we have doesn't show the landscaping along Rock Street like the original plan, although I went by and it looked like some work was being done there. Do you know if there's any, what they're proposing to do with that hill? And also, based on the way we approve the plan, I just want to make sure, because the plan that was submitted does not show the same landscaping, and it just may not be because it was part of what was submitted here, so.
You're correct, yes. The plan I had asked to get for you is just the parking layout.
Okay.
With the topography. They're going to continue with the landscape plan as they had proposed. So everything basically stays the same because the area that is now going to stay, granite rock was never landscaped. It was going to be parking anyway. There continues to be landscaping up along Rock Street as originally proposed, as well as behind the existing building. I guess that's the north side of the choke parcel. There's 3 or 4 trees that were proposed there. Those will remain. The one small change that you'll see there, the location of the walkway that starts in the back side of the existing building and wraps around to the western facade of the new building is stepped away from the building slightly and is going to be pervious. I think a pervious paver or pavement rather than just cement. So it's become part of their stormwater program. But that's an enhancement over what was there originally.
Now, how will again, I'll go back because I think that's going to be a much more prominent visually when you pull into that parking lot. We're talking a fairly large space from the retaining wall to the choke property line, where it looked like in the previous plan it was going to go basically right up to the line. I mean, a DPD, I would assume you'd be concerned as to how that's going to appear.
How the
Like I
rock
said,
is-
as you look at it right now, I understand it. Matter of fact, they haven't constructed the parking lot right now. But
Right.
it's just a big mound of stone there right now. And just how is that going to be finished off?
It's going to be, well, on the new plan, if you look at that, it's kind of hard to read. It's actually really going to look exactly like the original approved parking lot, except shorter, I guess, if you can envision that. So on the new plan, there's an island on the southern side of it. That's going to remain. That's going to be planted with a shade tree, as it originally was. So the look of it is not really changing, except that it's smaller.
No, I'm sorry, maybe I'm not making myself clear. I mean, if when you're driving into the parking lot and now the retaining wall, as you say, is going to be shorter, but that means there's going to be more space behind the retaining wall.
Mm-hmm.
What is that going to look like? You know, behind the the dumpster, you know, behind that wall, I mean, that's,
Dead space behind the
right,
retaining
exactly,
wall,
you know.
Right here.
It's probably not gonna be landscape, because it's seriously a granite rock. I mean, there's nothing that you would plant on it. So, I haven't, honestly, I don't think there was any plans to landscape that. You can kind of see on the new plan, on the north side of it, how steep it is. So it's gonna have basically a cliff on the north side, and then it'll have a gradual kind of slope to a retaining wall. And then the rest of that is going to be basically a large rock formation, where the retaining wall will be, at least looks like it's close to 10 feet, if I'm reading the contours correctly.
Because as you look at it right now, it's all like crushed rock that's there. I mean, it's large, it's not
Big
stone,
chunks.
it's not pea stone, I mean, it's crushed rock that's there. I'm just,
I think the crushed rock, if I understand correctly, maybe Catherine, you've seen it, but I think the crushed rock is the granite that was pulled out and is going to be removed from the site. Because that was where the parking lot's going to
Right.
be. That was a part of that stone formation that was broken down. So that should be removed.
so do we know what the height of the wall is going to be at that far end? I mean, how far is that coming down? Because the concern I had originally was the height of that wall to begin with, because we were really cutting far into that hillside, so to speak, and then you had the drop-off. But, I mean, do we have any idea then what the slope is going to look like, and then how high that wall is going to be, or?
Well, it's not going to be any higher.
Oh, I understand that, but,
Take a look at the,
I mean, that space is about a quarter of the size of the parking lot, so I'm just a little curious as to visually what that's going to look like, that's all. I mean, I guess this gives us no idea. And then the screening for the, you know, the other plan had the screening for the dumpster. I'm assuming this doesn't show any screening, but there's going to be screening around that dumpster?
Yeah, there's screening around it, yes. One of the conditions of approval is that it is screened.
Right.
So it will have to be screened. The way I'm reading the topography here is it's gonna be about a 13-foot high retaining wall. So if you look at the contour at the top, it's 83 feet.
Right.
That's right behind the refuse
That's the,
container.
well, that's the line in the, yeah, the line in the
And
middle.
then if you look at the dead end, there's a series of points that have elevations.
We're at
60
80
About 68 and a half.
80, well, yeah, I'm looking at what, down below, you've got 80, 82, and then we've got 83 as it slopes back down to where the dumpster is. I don't know what it is up above. And then the height, it looks like I'm still having a hard time, the height of the parking lot. You're looking middle of the parking lot, you've got elevations of what, 76, 75, 74. So we've got a slight increase. But then I'm looking at elevation between 70, going from 77 to 83, or 78 to 83. Am I reading that properly?
Yeah, I see what you're looking at now. The numbers that you're reading off in the parking lot are the old contours. They're
Okay.
The site work. So those dashed lines were the contours of the hill, so there was kind of a more gentle slope. So, you know, before the granite was pulled away, the contours started at 72 near the curb cut and kind of gradually went up to about 83. So the parking lot elevations are shown with the dots, the datum, with the 68 times 5.1. So that says an elevation of 68 and a half.
But
And so the retaining wall is, I mean, that's why the retaining wall needs to be there, is the height is going to be the difference between 68 and a half and whatever elevation is shown behind that retaining
The
wall, which would
83.
remain the same, which is 83. And then as you go north, that would then, it has a bit of a cliff there. It does jump down a little bit, down to about 75, looks like. But in the back portion of the parking lot and behind the refuse container, it's about a 13 to 14 foot difference. You can, if you look on the retaining wall that is on the southern side of the parking lot, I think you can get a sense for how that's going to look. So on the parcel that's adjacent to it to the south, you still have these elevations that gradually go up, you know, from 67, 68, 69 up to 82. The retaining wall then would hold that back where the parking lot itself is at 68 feet. Does it make sense? It's difficult to read the plan because there's a lot of information.
Yeah, and there's a lot on there. So, so if I'm looking at, if I go to that corner where you've got 68, and it looks like the elevations behind the wall then are 80, and then they go to 82. So I'm assuming at that juncture, matter of fact, the way this is actually drawn out, it looks like it flattens out after this 83 elevation, which isn't the case. But, okay, I just, my concern is just visually then, what is that gonna look like? We knew clearly what that was going to be all the way to the end. We're gonna have a high retaining wall, but you are gonna have a lot of space that actually slopes that will be visible, and I'm just curious as to what that's gonna look like. Because I think Mr. Genron's gonna have a good point about the island here, and I'm just thinking about how we can soften it, but, okay.
So the actual material of the retaining wall is what you're...
Yeah, just a little, well, again, Mr. Genron had a good point, we just, you may wanna talk about that. No, it just, you know, and I, again, we try to stick to the requirement of having an island, on the surface lot, but I think when you look at where this is tucked away in the back, you know, would it make more sense, even though it meets the zoning code, would it make more sense to eliminate that island, have another parking spot? But then, again, this provides some, I think, a nice visual aspect with with plantings and a tree, and if we eliminated that, is there some way that this far end of this parking lot could add some, you know, softer visual appearance to it? That's, and quite frankly, if it was a way you could even make it a little bit more attractive for the abutter that's here looking down on the lot, but, which, you know, that opportunity didn't exist before, the way it was proposed, with the retaining wall right up to the line.
Well, if you're trying to soften the look of that retaining wall, I think keeping the landscaped island with the tree is going to help with that. I mean, the canopy of that is going to eventually, at least, reach to the center of the drive lane, so that's going to cover, or shade at least, the view of that retaining wall from the street. And it still retains, and if you keep the landscape island, you still have the number of parking spaces there. That's required by zoning.
Understood.
I don't know. If you're looking to soften that impact of that.
I suffice to say, planning is department, you seem to be satisfied with what was presented here, is that correct? Is that, and you don't see any reason to, I mean, what's this, the distance from that property line to that retaining wall now in the back portion of that lot? It's a fairly large piece of land when you compare the site, and I just would be, I think, beneficial if something a little bit more visually pleasing, or at least if we had any idea what was being proposed.
It's 18 feet closer, approximately.
It's additional 18 feet of just blank space at this point that will be there.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a hill.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Genron, any questions?
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, so in general, I think this is a reasonable request. I understand the cost of drilling the granite makes it a little impractical, especially when we can still meet the zoning requirements on the parking in the space provided. As Mr. Frechette was alluding to, I was wondering about that landscape island, and you know, I'm a big proponent of trying to put as much landscaping as we can into parking lots. I hate to see the sea of asphalt, but this is a relatively small lot. It's tucked away in the back of this building, and I think if we could do some things with landscaping on the periphery or on that hillside to soften the look of the lot a little bit, it might be a better idea to remove the landscape island in favor of another parking spot. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that, Aaron? I would think that picking up another parking spot there would be preferable, as long as we can maybe do a little bit of landscaping on the periphery.
Well, the space that's, if you're looking on Willie Street, the space between the sidewalk and the curb line is approximately 3 to 4 feet. I didn't bring my scale, which is narrow for trees. I mean, you can try to do that. It wouldn't hurt, it certainly wouldn't hurt putting them in there.
So I don't want to belabor it. It's a minor thing. My preference would be, let's see if we can do some kind of landscaping on the periphery, pick up another parking spot there, but I'm really okay either way. I was curious, though, about access to the building. I don't see a walkway in the new drawing. Is there a walkway that will allow people to access the building without going around, or?
Yeah, there's two spaces. There's the handicap space, the clear zone, and then to the left of that, there is another striped area that will provide a pedestrian access. It starts right by the refuse container. It brings you to the walkway along the back,
Okay.
then around to the front, and then it also takes you to the left or the west side to the old building.
Okay.
So it's actually almost the same as what was originally proposed, but again, just kicked out a little bit.
Oh, okay. I actually think the positioning the refuse container, as long as it's screened, is probably better, because it allows a truck to back directly into the lot to access that. And I do think that the hillside will probably create a little bit more buffer zone for the abutter there, so I'm okay with the plan. I would just ask you to consider perhaps the possibility of picking up another space there and landscaping on the periphery. That's all. Thanks. Mr.
My
Chairman.
only thought on that is just looking at it, and I'd have to look at it with the scale. But if that island isn't there, it may not meet the landscaping within the parking lot requirement. Because the way that it's interpreted is that you measure from the edge of the parking lot. So you wouldn't count any trees that.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm suggesting is that maybe we waive that requirement in lieu of an additional parking spot, because the parking lot is relatively small, tucked away, and if we could do something around the periphery to soften it, I think it'd be okay.
That would take a variance, though. That's the problem.
We'll take up
The zoning variance? Oh, yeah, we probably don't want to go down there.
Yeah,
just a thought.
I don't want to complicate it,
So maybe if they do leave that landscape in there, they could consider any other type of landscape around the periphery area that you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, maybe even adding some by the wall as well, or even like in the Aaron said, where it comes in off Willie Street, if they could pick up a little bit of the landscape in there, because I think part of our motion before was to go along with Division of Planning and Development with the landscaping plan. So if we left that spot there, without touching the variance, maybe they could look at the areas whether they could add any landscaping by the retaining wall or by the entrance coming in off Willie Street, as Aaron said, he doesn't have the scale, but they could put maybe those type of shrubs or something there to break it up a little bit. And maybe you could consider that when they come in with the landscaping plan.
Yeah, absolutely, yep.
yeah, that's,
So maybe that, whether they could put anything on top of the wall, or like you say, coming in Willie Street, you say if it's 3 feet out, you probably wouldn't get trees, but you could do some type of plantings anyways.
I'd have to work with Diane Trad on that. She has a much better understanding what trees are gonna live, in what kind of space.
Yeah.
The rule of thumb is usually, you like to have a 5-foot,
Trees that will grow in granite?
Don't need
probably none that
water.
we would
Not
plant.
much dirt.
Hey, Mike, I have grass that goes through my driveway, so I, but no, Mr. Chairman, if I just, because I would appreciate that if DPD could look at that. That's a large space now, behind that wall, and I
So-
just think something can,
Looking for some sort of
scheme should be
landscaping that
there.
could be, that could be incorporated there.
Really do.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so basically, the request is that we make an amendment to allow to reduce 2 parking spaces, correct? From 15 to 13.
3,
3, are we down to?
15 to 12.
15 to
12, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 12,
Right, okay.
that's what they're asking.
Or is it, Aaron, is it 15 to 13 and they have 12 that's required?
Yeah, I got that wrong originally.
Okay.
It's 12 that they have. It's 12 that's required, so.
So, I'm sorry, I'm saying, yeah,
The notice is incorrect.
okay, that's what I was reading, okay.
This is incorrect.
Right. Okay. So, should we entertain a motion to that effect, if that's the consensus of the board? To approve the plan as amended?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the plan as amended relative to the,
Okay, to allow the parking to be reduced and still conform to zoning.
yes.
Okay, motion's made.
Mr. Chairman, if the maker of the motion wouldn't mind an amendment to that, just to further direct DPD to, and I understand within the constraints of the,
Pavement plan?
the terrain and the material, but to work with the petitioner to come up with some sort of a landscaping scheme for that new area behind that retaining wall.
Is that okay with your motion?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay,
sure.
motion made, and is that a second, Mr. Fischett?
Yes, please.
With that condition?
With that
Okay.
amendment, yeah.
Motion's made and second as amended, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, chair votes yes. Thank you. Moving along, we have some old businesses, notices from abutting towns. We don't have much information on that. So I'd like to move along to, we have zoning board of appeal notices. On the zoning board of appeal notices, we have a few matters. One matter was which was a continuance on their board, and these are the matters that appear before the zoning board of appeals, scheduled for September 28th, 2009, here in the city council chambers. One of the matters on for continuance is 161 Lakeview Ave. We saw that at our last meeting, and we made a note on that we made a motion to deny due to the magnitude of the variances that were requested. So moving along, we have 2 new matters. One of the new matters is for a special permit, telecommunications. The applicant is Clear Wire LLC. The property is located at 900 Chelmsford Street, and it's a petition for the installation of panel antennas, microwave dishes, and associated equipment cabinets, allowing a rooftop telecommunication facility for Clear Wireless LLC according to 7.6 of the zoning ordinance. I believe this is up at Cross Point, if I'm,
Yeah, this is
should be
Cross
correct,
Point.
number 900
Yeah.
would be Cross Point. So I think there's already a tower there now, and they have it up on the very top of the building. So it might be, because in part of the narrative, they talk about the Clear Wireless respectfully request, the application presented as a co-location on an existing building. So this is,
Mr. Chairman, this is on the top of the Cross Point Tower, correct?
I believe so. I remember when they came in and put one in years ago on top. So I think what they might be doing is just adding to that one.
Adding to that, yeah.
I think that's a reasonable location for equipment like this. It's up high, it's out of eyesight, eye shot, and, you know, away from, as far away as we can get it, really, from other buildings and neighbors. So, you know, I'd be inclined to recommend approval.
Okay, any board members have any further concerns?
No, that's-
Okay. If we can, if Mr. General wants to put that in the form of a motion,
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we
I'll second-
any-
I'll second
motion
the
made, second, discussion? Any further questions?
Now, the only question, I was looking through the materials, I know whenever they, you know, try and locate these cell towers, they try and get them on existing equipment. I know there's existing equipment up there. It wasn't clear to me whether they're putting up
A new
a
one?
new tower on, you know, it doesn't bother me one way or the other if they're putting another tower up there.
only
but
like 4
It wasn't
feet,
clear to
5
me
feet
from the
high,
application
I believe.
whether it's being installed on an existing tower. Some language in here about, you know, co-location on an existing building, but I'm not sure if that was the case, or is it,
Or if it's a new tower up
or a
top
new
there?
tower. Either
Okay.
way, in that location, I wouldn't have a problem with it, so
Motion's made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. You know, when you, if you ever look at the
See.
Wang Towers from the top up there, where Mr. Wang used to have his helicopter pad, the building is shaped as a W for Wang. But you have to see it from the sky to realize it.
Hmm. I've seen
When you look
aerial
at that, yeah.
photographs.
I remember when we thought of plans when it first came in, didn't realize until you take the view. And that's where he had his helicopter pad up top.
Right.
And it's the.
I thought it was an
building
M, I must have been looking at it.
style.
the
You
other
messed
way.
the bed, but, 'cause I remember when that project came before the board, yeah. Moving along, we have, the next matter is for a special permit, variance, and this is for sign, and the applicant is T-Mobile Wireless Stores. Property is located at 497 Chelmsford Street, to install an eternally illuminated commercial marquee sign for T-Mobile consisting of individual letters that exceed the required height according to section 6.39, 6.3.2.11B of the zoning code. We do have pictures in there of the lettering. Whether we feel we should send this to our design sign planner?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we send this to the DPD design planner for evaluation.
Okay, motion is made.
I'll second that.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Under the Board of Appeals, they have other old business, but I believe that's something that would have been before us in the past, so we don't have to act on that matter. Moving along, any further general correspondences? Aaron, anything from the planning department to update us on?
Got a couple of things here for you guys. There's, thing wanted to give you a heads up on, I'll just pass it down. Step five. The Massachusetts Climate Action Network has, partners, I guess, DPP, the Green Building Committee, and a couple of, put on a Green Communities Program workshop. The Green Communities Program is a state Department of Energy Resources grant program that requires, and I may have mentioned this in the past, but it requires towns, or allows towns to adopt 5 elements related to green building or sustainability, such as adopting the stretch code, committing to reducing energy use in municipal buildings by 20%, and various other things. This is a half-day workshop that's kind of geared towards specifically municipal officials, city councilors, planning boards. And it's for the whole region, but it gives a good introduction to the program itself. But it really focuses on the stretch code, which is in the amendment to the building code, the state building code. It's an enhancement that the towns can choose to adopt, and it requires more stringent energy efficiency standards for construction. So it's probably the most challenging, particularly for the city of Lowell, to consider. So it's meant to be a kind of, here's what it is, here's what you expect from additional costs, kind of upfront costs for developers. What's exempt from the code. Certain things like historic buildings are exempt. any kind of rehab on a commercial scale on the inside is exempt. So a lot of the details are going to be fleshed out. Working in the city, so if you're available, it might be interesting.
Thank you.
There's also just a heads up on October 5th, 135 Beacon Street. It's coming
Yeah.
in for an interview character special permit. And then on October 19th, George Roikus will be here to talk about some dormitory definition, proposed amendment to the zoning code related to dormitories. And then also on the 19th, Lowell General Hospital has submitted a master plan update for the PD district. So,
Aaron, is the presentation that George is going to make regarding the dormitories, is that as a follow-up to what I had requested some time ago, or?
I would say it addresses it, the dormitory definition was in the works before you made your motion.
Mhm.
So it's, I don't know if it answers you directly, but it's all kind of folded into one presentation.
Okay.
How they're applied. It changes the definition to, right now, it does not allow private developers to do dorms. It proposes to change it to allow that, subject to a series of performance and program standards. So if you are going to be a developer and you're going to submit for a dormitory, you have to have these 5 or 6, 7 programs in place. And they're designed to match programs at universities, best practices, universities that employ in their dorms.
Could you, in advance, supply a list of the communities in which you may have drawn from that have that in place and have had that in place, so we
Sure,
could?
yeah, I know, well, Boston was one of them. Ithaca, New York was another, but I can pull together. It's much more common, I don't say it's much more common out west, but it's something that you see a lot in the universities on the west coast, where they have a lot of private dormitories.
I'm just a little concerned about use after, in other words, you clearly build something with much more density, and then it's owned privately, and then all of a sudden it's no longer in dormitory use. What happens at that point? Yeah,
That would
that's a concern.
require a use change, because if it goes to a residential project, like an apartment or a
Right.
condo, it's a use change, and they would be required to meet.
Oh, I understand, but, in the real world, we have an 80-unit building that they come to us for use, we're going to vote no, so now they sit there and they don't have a commitment from the university.
Then we have a vacant building.
What happens,
Right,
yeah, so
yeah.
I mean, that's,
They can't afford to.
yeah, I just see some huge issues here, and I'm assuming is the zoning subcommittee going to be hearing this at some point, or?
Yes, they've already, the city council subcommittee believes already heard it. And
The zoning subcommittee's already heard it?
I believe so.
With all due respect for procedure, I would have, as a member of the planning board, would have liked to have notification of the zoning subcommittee meeting. And
Sat on that.
That was on.
yeah, and I've actually spoken before the committee, even as I was serving on this board on, and actually Mr. Genrin came regarding the review process they wanted for higher density development. So, yeah, I just, again, it's all working together, so we don't have, they don't spend a lot of time on something, comes before the planning board, and then,
Actually, I should take back the comment. I'm not sure if it went to the
Okay,
zoning
okay.
committee, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Bill
I
Martin's still doing
I know it was, a petition was made to the city council for the change, but after that.
Okay, no,
I thought
just-
it did, but it may not have, so. I don't know.
Okay, no, I just, again, I think
if it does
it's
come
better
up-
for the process.
So it does come up, we should be notified.
it. Yeah. I'd like to
Whenever
know
there's a
about
meeting of the zoning subcommittee, they notify you, do they not?
I do get,
You can forward the notices to us.
Yeah, no, that's, I would have assumed that's what would have happened, so that's why, yeah.
Yes.
that. Sure.
Anything further, Aaron, on?
I felt like there was something else, but it wasn't. No,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Any further comments from the planning board members?
Done?
If not, we entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Good night. Thank you, everyone.
So your son's like